An 80-something-year-old man decided to plant some peach trees in the back of his property. He was working there one Saturday afternoon. It was a hot day, sweat coming down, when his neighbor came by. And his neighbor yelled at him, "Hey, Bob, what are you doing?" And he stopped, and he leaned on his spade, and he said, "Well, John, I'm planting some peach trees." The neighbor said, "Well, you know, I don't want to be hard-hearted or anything, but at your advanced age, the chances of you eating any of the fruit from these peach trees are kind of slim and none. Why are you going through all this work to do this?" And he said, "Well, you see, I've been eating peaches all my life. I love peaches. And they've come from trees that I never planted. And I just wanted to do some payback to all those people that did all that hard work to say thank you for the gift of the peaches that I ate during my life. And maybe someday after I'm gone, somebody will eat the peaches from my peach trees." Second Sunday of Lent. I don't know if you've realized it or not, but on the second Sunday of Lent, we hear the same gospel story every year. In year A, like today, from Matthew. Last year, year C, from Luke. And then next year, we'll hear Mark's version. That's why these three gospels are called the synoptics. You can take what they wrote and put them parallel to one another and see how they're exactly alike or how they differ in some aspects in terms of emphasis. And if that were not enough, there's a Feast of the Transfiguration, that's what the story is all about, that falls on August the 6th. So twice a year, we hear this same story. You've heard it so often, you probably know the story better than I do. So when I was trying to put this homily together, I kept asking myself, what can I say that might be different this time around? And maybe let you think about the story in like a different way, because you know the story very, very well yourself. No biblical exegesis. Particularly in light of our first and second readings. The first reading should be awful familiar to you as well, the story of Abram. So I came up with 3 points I'm going to try to make in this homily. Let's see if I can come up with all 3 of them. First of all, we do not earn the blessings that God gives us. Those special graces are free gifts from God. In the first reading, we hear about all the graces and blessings and promises that God made to this person called Abram. And you know his name's going to be changed to Abraham a little bit later on in the book of Genesis. He's told that he's going to be the father of a great nation. He's the father of the Jewish nation. He's going to be the father, and through him all nations will be blessed. A little bit later on, we're going to find out that his descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sands on the seashore. Did Abram do anything to earn those blessings, those promises from God? I'd say no, he didn't. And neither do we earn the blessings and graces that God gives to us. Point 1. Point 2. Was Abram given all these promises because he was so good? Again, I'd say the answer is no. It's not that Abram was so good, but that God is so good. Now, in this diocese, when we talk about God being good, we're compelled to bring in the mantra of our Bishop Emeritus. So here we go. See if you remember. God is good. And all the time, God is good. Bishop Steib would say thank you if he were here. You remembered. But it's because God is so good that we have the blessings. And it's so God is so good that Abram got those blessings and promises from God. And we're further told the same thing in today's second reading as well, from the pastoral letter to Timothy. We're told that we all have been given graces and blessings and promises in Jesus Christ. It's nothing we did to earn them, and it wasn't because we were so good we deserved them, but we have them because of Christ. And because of Christ's suffering, death, and resurrection, we call it the Paschal mystery that Lent is supposed to help us to celebrate when we come to the Easter Vigil and the Easter Sunday. Points 1 and 2. We don't earn graces. We don't deserve graces. They're free gifts from God. It's up to us to accept them and do something with them. Point 3. In our gospel story, Peter, James, and John are giving a special blessing. They're there on the mountaintop. They have what Abraham Maslow called a peak experience. They experienced the transfiguration of Jesus. Were they chosen because they did something? They earned it? No. Did they do it because they were so good? No. We know that Peter's going to deny Jesus 3 times on Holy Thursday. We know that James and John wanted to demand to be his vice president and secretary of state when he came into his glory, right after Jesus told them he was going to die. They didn't get it. But they're there for this transfiguration, in which they see Jesus on the outside the way he really was on the inside. And that gets us to point 3. You and I have to answer the question that Jesus gave to his apostles at Caesarea Philippi. It occurs in the middle of Mark's gospel, right in the center of the gospel. He said, "Who do people say that I am?" In other words, what is my identity? And we all have to answer that. And how we answer that changes everything. They got a glimpse into that answer. He's the Son of God. Brilliant white on the outside to show what he really was on the inside, because all they could see was the human being, the human side. Yeah, he went around doing miracles. Yeah, he ran around healing people. Yeah, he went around expelling demons, but other people were said to have done those same things. But they get that little glimpse into who he really is. And ever since the start of Christianity, that question of the identity of Jesus has been a major question. It's the major question of the entire Bible for us Christians. Who really is Jesus Christ? Is he the Son of God, the second person of Blessed Trinity, or is he just some really good teacher who could work some miracles? It started out at the very beginning that the identity of Jesus was he was the God, but he wasn't a man. It's called Gnosticism. That denied Jesus' humanity. Then somebody came along called Arius who denied that he was God. He was just kind of a really super sort of fella that could do wonderful things. And it was called Arianism. We have Arianism today through people like Dan Brown, don't we, in the Da Vinci Code. Jesus is really a really super guy, but really the Son of God? Really the second person of the Blessed Trinity? Really God and man at the same time? That's a question we all have to answer. And the answer to that question changes how we live our lives. Point 3, what is the true identity of Jesus Christ? Okay? So all of us, not just Abram, not just Peter, James, and John, but all of us are given gifts from God, are given graces, are giving blessings, or giving promises. What should our response be? Now, sometimes we ask for those things, don't we, through prayer. Sometimes we don't even ask for those things. Sometimes God gives us these blessings, and they're things that we never would have thought of. They're beyond our own expectations. Sort of like a 55-year-old retired Navy commander who becomes a Catholic priest. And we get these blessings, we get these promises. What do? Well, our action should be one of thanks and praise and gratitude. Somehow or another, we need to show God our gratitude for all the blessings He gives us. And to show that gratitude even during times when we have trouble finding those blessings in our lives. when things may not be going exactly the way that we want them to go or hope that they would go. God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. And therefore, we have to be grateful all the time. Question for you today. Are you developing an attitude of gratitude?